Okay, welcome back, everybody. You know, if you're a friend of the show, I get totally riled up about certain topics. And this is one of them that I have been just dying to talk with this guest about. Jen Brewer, global humanitarian consultant and a vice president at Care for Life. We're going to be talking about, drum roll please, the perils of the hero complex,
Yeah.
also known as white savior complex. Jen is like, come on now, we don't call it that anymore.
A little PR.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about this. Thank you for coming and having this honest conversation with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a big soapbox of mine, so I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, you know, I've been on top and below to the side. I mean,
Mhm.
Jen, gosh, I recognize myself, unfortunately, in some of these issues and over the course of my life, right? And so
Yes.
this is just a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And so I can't wait for it. I'm really appreciative that you're here. You know, I'm very appreciative as well that we have such amazing presenting sponsors, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and Holdings for Good. They're a new sponsor, and they are a bank just for nonprofits. Hello. Again, we're very excited to have them join us. Again, I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. More importantly, Jen Brewer, global humanitarian consultant, a vice president at Care for Life. You can find out more about the Care for Life organization and their mission at careforlife.org. But let's start here, Jen. What is Care for Life and what does this organization do?
The organization itself works at the base level in communities. We work with family levels and with every family in an entire community. The overarching goal is to alleviate suffering, instill hope, and help these families move from survival to self-sufficiency when they're on the poverty in the poverty spectrum.
Okay. Are you doing this in a particular part of the world, or is this just talk to us about what the strategy is for your outreach?
It was the Family Preservation Program, which is what Care for Life runs. It runs mainly right now in Mozambique. In several, we're on almost our 40th community of doing. These communities go through a 3-year cycle and then graduate, and then we're done, and they continue to progress. But we also work with other organizations. We trained an organization in Sudan and in the DRC, and are looking to expand because we know the principles work.
Mm-hmm. So is this the sort of thing, and I asked this question as a preamble to our discussion, is this the sort of thing where your organization and your team is educating and training folks from that country or region on the ground, and then they deliver, the community delivers?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
the whole staff is local Mozambican.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I asked that question because I think it's really important not to just have two white ladies talking about this. And because really and
Yeah.
truly, I think we need to kind
Yes.
of level up here and be honest. So let's
Yeah.
start the conversation then with what is the hero complex?
The hero complex is something that I think all of us participate in at some point in time, unfortunately. And really hate to admit it, but it is when we, with the best intentions and the best heart, we
Yeah.
want to help, we want to serve. We show up with sometimes our suitcase full of stuff that we give, or
Yep.
we show up with our American version of this is how you should live, and let us help you. Here's what you're missing. Let us help you. And it's this little triangle. And why the hero complex is every hero needs a victim. So automatically when we step into that role, we've automatically put somebody in the victim role and needs a villain. And the villain is of course poverty. So we're all on board. We want to fight against poverty, but we have to have this victim that we're going to go save. Enter short-term trips, the let's go save the world in a week, let's go,
Mhm.
what I call the run and gun. We just jump in, drop, the
Yeah.
jump and dump type
Mhm.
of living. What we don't realize is the effect that that has is when you turn somebody into a victim, all that they know to do is, forgive me for taking this too far, but all they know to do is put up the bat signal if any problems occur. They kind of learn to sit and wait for the Americans to come or the Europeans to come or whatever group to come in and save the day instead of instilling within themselves that they have what it takes to actually get themselves from point A to point B.
Mhm.
So it's best intention, but
Right.
I'm sure we've all done it at some point, or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, I mean, I would say with the work that I've done around the world, in like board training and just
Mhm.
talking about the nonprofit sector, and then even just talking with normal workaday world people, it is
Yeah.
fascinating the difference between North America and really, I'll call out the US versus other national interests with educated populations that have
Mhm.
just been programmed, and a part of their culture is that a government or a faith-based organization is going to
Yeah.
provide
Yeah.
solutions. And I had a situation where I was in Europe for something, and there was a really horrible, horrible cold situation coming. Like tragically, uh,
Mm.
people were concerned about the tragedy that was unfolding, and there had just been a major, major influx of refugees from Africa. And so I remember just off the cuff, like I would do in my own community, say, "Well, we should gather up old coats and things that don't fit anymore, whether and get them
Yeah.
over to where these
Mhm.
camps were." And every the locals were like, "What?" And I was like, "Well, because when in America you are raised from like
Yes.
kindergarten, you that's
Give.
what you
Give.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
you like, come on, marshal the troops. And I was fascinated, super educated people. This was cultural. They did not think about this.
Yeah.
Not that they were bad people or that they were
Mhm.
disengaged. It just was not part of their culture.
Yeah. It's fascinating how it's just ingrained, and we want to do that. We want to help, we want to give. What we don't realize, and I'm gonna just be fully transparent, I have gone to Guatemala with my family oodles of times, and we have showed up with 20 suitcases full of
Yes,
stuff to give.
yes,
We've done that, and we patted ourselves on the back and felt like, "Oh, we're doing so much good." What I didn't realize, and this is a great resource if you want some homework, is to watch the documentary Poverty Inc. That
mm,
that talked about Haiti,
mhm,
and it brought up these local businesses that after the massive devastation that reigned, when all of the NGOs started pouring in free goods, these local businesses were saying, I can't compete with free.
no,
I can't compete with free.
mm-mm,
And that something about that was my V8 slap. My, what are we doing? We
yeah,
take shoes and we're putting their local shoe salesman out of business.
right.
And even if you'll permit me a story again that tells on myself, we were going with a group, and I still had this thought of, okay, we're helping with medical needs though, and that's bona fide, like we could do that, blah blah blah. So I was translating in the medical clinic, and I was walking home after one of our days, and I walked by their local clinic, and it was closed. And for half a second, my judgmental self had the thought, your clinic's not even open, before I slapped myself upside the head and thought, what are we doing?
Mhm,
These people from this village who had gotten themselves out of the village, gone to the big city, which was 10 hours away, gotten
mm,
educated, and come back and were trying to help their community and make a living. Nobody's going to pay them when the Americans come down every 6 months and do it for free.
right,
And I realized, oh, what are we doing?
right.
But all these things, the good news of that is all of these things just take a tiny tweak. Everything we do would, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I like that you just said that, because it's not about like, well, how do we get the military to take the
Yeah.
the trucks and the vast stores of whatever we think people need
Mhm.
and airdrop it versus taking those same suitcases of cash and going
Yeah.
into the local places and purchasing
I
and then allowing that distribution to occur
Yes.
on
Yeah.
a more broad base. And I think
Yeah.
that's really for a lot of people, they will have never thought of that nor have heard of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And when I work with organizations, that's what I say. It's not doom and gloom. It's what can we tweak? What can
Yeah,
we tweak? Like with that medical example, the only tweak we needed to make was, oh, let's go train their doctor.
yeah,
My husband specializes in skin issues, and he said, okay, I can go. They can bring all their cases that they don't know how to care for. I can come behind the doctor and
right,
train him caring for these patients, and then he will have that knowledge.
right.
All it takes is just boop, a little. How can we tweak this?
Okay, since you've been so transparent and so very
Mhm.
gracious about pulling your own life story in, can I ask you this question? Like, how
Yeah.
long did it take for you to figure this out? Because I'll witness about myself. This took me a long time to figure out because,
Yeah.
to your point, we're so ingrained.
Mhm.
You know, you
Yes.
you bring a can of soup to school, and you're allowed to wear jeans that day. I mean, it starts right
Yes. Yeah,
so
it starts
low.
early. It
So
starts
then,
early.
how did you figure this out?
Yeah. It took a few it took a time. It took a bit of time. We
Okay.
started taking our kids,
Mhm.
and I started with the thought of, okay, you need to go learn. You need to go learn how to give. So right off the bat, that was mixed up. And then I'm a dietitian, so I focus on nutrition things a lot when I work with groups, and we had helped families do gardens and community gardens. And we went back the next year and realized none of these gardens are still functioning. What what's happening? And then went back the next year, and nothing we had done that previous year was functioning. So it took probably a good 3 or 4 years of kind of that what's going on? And
Right,
we are becoming part of the problem here because
right.
they're just waiting for us to show up now.
Yeah,
So,
so interesting.
but then you have realizing the problem and actually shifting to do good. Now that's a whole other story too of how you actually turn the tide of organizations
Right.
to
Well,
want to tweak.
so let's dig into that because I love your garden example. How do we help without hurting, and how do we take that medical clinic and be more
Yeah.
collaborative so that they're not
Mhm.
shutting down?
Yeah. It first and foremost, it takes, quite frankly, eating a big piece of humble pie
Love it.
and realizing, okay, it's not working.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one thing when I sit in boardrooms with especially established organizations. We kind of have to establish a safe space. We're
Mhm,
going to pull up the carpet, we're going to look at the mold underneath,
mhm.
and it's okay. No judgment, no judgment. Let's just admit what's not working instead of covering it up, instead of, okay, working in humanitarian work, you can catch, you can shift anything into a good story for donors. Let's just be honest.
Mm,
So
interesting.
it's, and donors don't like to hear, thank you for your donation. We learned what doesn't work. Can you write us another check so we can actually do what does?
Oh my God, that is hilarious. It's heartbreaking, but it
Yeah.
is so true. I love that you said
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Nor do donors like, thank you for your donation. We're not going to give anything. We're going to educate. I work a lot with the first 1,000 days of life of kids. So we try to get donors to see, you'll see results in 20 years. Thanks for your check. We'll get back to you. That's a
Wow.
hard sell. It's a hard sell to realize it's not a one and done. And it's, so how do we help? First of all, we pull back and realize, let's all collectively agree it's not working.
Mhm.
The kind of established norms aren't working. So let's be okay with trialing new ways of doing things.
Wow. It's such a bold thing And I've got to believe that a lot of organizations, even in their own communities, haven't asked that question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that it's kind of an interesting thing. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because when we think about discussing solutions, and
Mhm.
one of these big things is poverty, it seems to me
Mhm.
like that has become a blanket word.
Yeah.
Um, and what do you see in this space?
Poverty has become such a catch-all phrase.
Mhm,
That's a big phrase for donors. That's a big phrase for campaigns.
mhm,
Alleviate poverty. Alleviate poverty.
mhm,
What does that mean? And
mhm,
when you ask anybody in a first world type of country, or what we call now high economic countries,
mhm,
we get answers like not enough food, not enough clothes, not enough shelter, physical, which is true. That's a definition of poverty.
mhm.
When we ask people in lower or middle developing countries or economic countries, the answers are much different. It
In-
is internal poverty. It's I don't have a voice. I can't participate in my community customs. I Nobody cares about me. I'm ostracized. It's when the only thing you know is you wake up and you don't know what you're eating that day.
Mhm.
You can't sit down and write a 5-year plan or a
Yeah.
10-year plan. It just doesn't exist. So it's redefining poverty. A lot of this is internal. It's helping people to see the power within themselves.
Mhm.
Once that switches, and interestingly, again, all these take our little tweaks. What we found is I say I did not find this. I read it in a book. What people with much brighter brains than I have found is when we do the initial assessments, historically, it's what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you lack?
Mhm.
We're great at listing what we lack. Heck, I could write what I lack. I can
Mhm.
make a Christmas wish list 10
Sure.
miles long. But if we tweak the question and say, what do you have to offer? What skills can you bring to the table for your community? That automatically changes the entire outcome of the project,
Yeah.
because people, instead of being the victim, instead of the receivers, they become part of the solution. Suddenly they sit up taller. Suddenly they come to the table. Suddenly, even if it's, I know how to make tortillas.
Mhm.
Awesome. We need that skill.
Mhm.
How can we utilize that? Suddenly people are together. It's community based instead of outside based
Right.
coming
I
in.
love that. And I think to your point, in the very first thing that you said, the hero needs the victim.
Mhm.
And so it's part of that reframing. Really interesting.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. So we're in a time right now, as you and I are speaking, where we have dreadful, dreadful humanitarian issues. We're
Mhm.
discussing interventions. We're trying to figure things out. There's still a lot of conflict. And this is not just in the Middle East. I mean, this is going on all over the world. And some would argue,
Mhm.
even in some of our communities in the US. How do we look at a crisis and say, oh, well, we're going to have a philosophic discussion and we're going to empower people,
Yeah.
when it's like, we need food and water? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do we level
And
set?
I love that you brought that up, because first and foremost, what organizations need to do is define, do I do acute or do I do chronic? We
Mhm.
have messed those up. We have started treating chronic problems with acute solutions. If
Okay.
there's an earthquake, if there's a fire, if there's war, displacement, you the example I share is if somebody's drowning in the river, you don't go to the side and say, you should take swimming lessons.
Yeah,
You
right.
should try that. We jump in and save them.
Yeah,
Okay. If
yeah.
somebody's falling in that same point in the river every day, then we pull back. We still save the people. We still do the immediate. So we still need to do the acute. I'm not saying stop acute. Okay. I will.
Good.
No, we need to do
Yeah,
that. But
right.
if at the same time we can back up and understand, why are people falling in the river?
Mhm.
Do we need a fence? Do we need a bridge? Then it's a weird dichotomy, because if we can take some sort of energy and put it into what I call the roots of the problem, then we can actually stop the acute from being so devastating, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And it's really interesting, Jen, because why don't we have those discussions here in this country? I mean, I would love to know, are we educating social workers on these, these attitudes and these structures for solutions? I mean, it seems to me it's like a new conversation.
Yeah. Well, and
what is it?
I'll give you the number one problem is donors. People, well, I should not have said donors. It's the whole paradigm of what questions you ask an organization. Because, I mean, just tell me this off the top of your head. What's the first question an organization gets asked before somebody donates?
Yeah, where does the money go?
And even if you break that down, what's your overhead?
The overhead. Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay salaries. I'm not gonna, and I will tell you, Care for Life, this family preservation, 90% of our money pays salaries.
Yeah.
But we are paying local salaries to educate populations who will no longer need the stuff. So again, it's that looking long term. It's saying, you pay this money, yeah, it goes to a salary, but okay, it's going to a local salary who's providing their family, who's educating an entire community who will no longer need the donation again. Right. It's you're educating generations. Right. So we need to change that. Those are the conversations we need to have, is how to educate donors on what questions to ask. I even do whole presentations on what questions do you ask, and spoiler alert, not one of them is what is your overhead. Not at all. None of us go into an Apple store and say, before I buy this new phone, what's your overhead?
Yeah,
how much does your CEO make? Like, we're kind of doing a brain drain on the humanitarian sector because we're forcing people to live in poverty to help poverty. It's weird, but I help people walk through. I have these 8 principles that we walk through, and just to ask these questions of really, truly, what is your organization doing? Number 1, do no harm, which seems like a duh, but are you stuck in the hero complex? Are you, being willing to open that? Find the root cause. Are we, and this is how Care for Life actually started our family preservation program, is the founders, they went in and people kept saying, build orphanages. There's an AIDS crisis. It's only getting worse. We're going to have an influx. And she, to her credit, Cindy Packard stepped back and she said, but wait a minute. And she found these statistics that 80% of orphans have a living family member. But when that family's in poverty, the orphans are the only place they can send them to get fed, educated, and clothed. Right. So she had the wherewithal to kind of shift and say, but wait, what if we strengthen families and then they won't have to send their kids to the orphanages? So it's being willing to step back, find the root cause. Okay. Are we treating comprehensively? When I deal with nutrition, am I ignoring water? Because I can feed all the nutritious food in the world. If I'm not worried about the water, it's going to give them very expensive diarrhea. It's going to go right through. Is it community led? Like we said, that hero complex. Are we plopping in and saying, here's what you need? Instead of, hey, A, what do you need? And B, what can you do? We're here as a facilitator. And the most important, that community empowerment. There have been studies on these communities in Mozambique that are fascinating. If people want to go to the website, where, we talked about that acute need versus the long-term need. There are studies shown after there were some cyclones that came in and wiped out communities, and then the pandemic hit just a year later. So it actually, sadly, provided a very interesting study force to say, okay, these communities have been educated. All of their stuff has been wiped out. But what they found was that education and that training and that empowerment made these communities heads and tails above other communities in rebuilding, in restructuring. In fact, there was 4 times lower death rate from COVID in these communities because they banded together. They said, okay, we know how to do this. Let's figure this out together. It's that community empowerment. Are we treating the whole family? I know this isn't too politically correct right now in this era of let's segment, but we can't segment populations and expect everybody to grow in countries. So are we treating the whole family?
Right.
Yes, we stay people focused, but data driven. We've
Mhm.
got to keep data, and we have to be willing to say, okay, what we thought we were doing isn't working.
Right.
So can we pivot? Can we pivot midstream? Will
Right.
our donors be okay with that? Will our board be okay with that? And then this chaffs a lot of people when I bring it up, but do we have an exit strategy? No
Mm.
project should ever be started without an exit plan. If I have a program that requires me to run it, it's a failure in progress. I should be able to sneak away without them even noticing I'm gone.
Okay, that's a hair on fire moment for me because I love that. And I don't think I've ever heard any leader talk about that or frame up their programming that way.
Yeah. And this is where, again, that humble pie. We want to be needed. Let's just put it out there as human beings.
Yeah.
We love being needed. And to be able to slip away and not only have them not notice, but have them realize, hey, we did this.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, you got to let go of the ego.
Yeah.
And it's
the true definition of success through empowerment.
Yeah.
Wow. How fascinating.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you've given us so, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no. I was just going to say, like, to bring it home, it's the same thing we do with our own children as we're raising kids. I don't want my 30-year-old child to still be knocking on my door and needing things every day. I want them essentially to replace me. I still want them to call me on Mother's Day. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing their laundry every day. So.
It's really true. Oh my gosh. Well, this has really been fascinating. I have so enjoyed this conversation, and I could certainly speak with you more about this. And I welcome you back because I feel like, we start with international work and we think about these things, but so many of the points that you made, they can be applied in our own communities.
Everywhere. Yes.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yeah, so it's really valuable to be discussing this in terms of resilience, how we communicate to our donors, but starting off with what we think about ourselves and how we think about our communities. And this hero complex is going on in our cities, in our rural communities, right here and now.
Everywhere. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's in our own backyard.
That really
For
is.
sure.
It really is. Well, just been amazing. Jen Brewer, Global Humanitarian Consultant, Vice President, Care for Life. You can learn more about this amazing program and their trajectory of their work and how they think about things at careforlife.org. It's a really interesting start to something that you wouldn't have thought how an NGO could function. And I think, Jen, what I found interesting really quickly on your website was that, we make suppositions and plans in parts of the world where we will probably never step foot. Right? I mean, how many people will ever be like we witnessed, going to South America, Central America, Africa? I mean, right? And yet we have all of these attitudes and plans.
Yes. Yes.
We've never been there. And so it just highlights this amazing work that you've done. I have really enjoyed this. Thank you, Jen. We'll get you back and explore this even more because it's just a fascinating topic.
Thank you so much.
It's been lovely, just lovely. You've really given me a lot to think about too. So I want to make sure that I express our gratitude as well to our presenting sponsors. And they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and Holdings for Good. Just such a fascinating conversation today. And, we end each and every episode with this mantra. And today, I've said this now for 6 years, every day. more than, well, almost 1,400 episodes. And today I really think about it in a different way. And the message is this: to stay well so you can do well. Thanks, everyone.
Mm.